Hey, what's up out there on YouTube? My name is Brandon, aka Scourge of Vinyl, and again, another list video. I find these pretty fun to make. They're good to start up conversation, good for other people to kind of hop on and put in their 2 cents, whether they write in the comments or make a video of their own. And that's what I'm doing today. Ben over at Brain Smasher beat me to it. The top 20 albums that got him into black metal. I really enjoyed doing the top 20 that got me into death metal, and I thought maybe I should do one for black metal, and lo and behold, Brain Smasher beat me to it, so this is going to be more of a response. I can't take credit for this. So I'll just start at the very beginning, but before I get into that, I'm gonna, go ahead and say that I haven't been listening to black metal forever, for not nearly as long as some other people out there. I've only been listening to black metal for the past 6 years, maybe something like that. More seriously, maybe 4 or 5. So really not that long. So you're gonna see some stuff on here that's a little bit newer, and a lot of it is really the classic stuff that one just getting into black metal would stumble upon. So here we go. First one, Dimmu Borgir, puritanical euphoric misanthropia. It's a mouthful. Yeah, I can recall the first time I ever heard a black metal song. It was Puritania in the one of the CKY movies, the very beginning. That song is blasting. At the time, didn't know what genre it was, didn't care. All I knew was that it was heavy and I liked it. So I guess you could consider that my introduction to black metal, although at the time I didn't really know it. You can say all you want about what Dimmu Borgir has become. I'm sure everyone and their mom has an opinion over that, but I don't care. Next up, I consider this the first black metal record that I ever bought. That is Venom, Welcome to Hell. I know a lot of people don't consider Venom to be a black metal band, and I can understand why, because musically they were more akin to a new wave of British heavy metal band than they were proto-black metal. Although, with their second album, Black Metal, I think they would go on to coin that term, so I think they deserve a little credit for that. And, much like I consider Possessed to be a death metal band, although they're probably more of a thrash band, I consider Venom to be a first wave black metal band. So I give this album a lot of credit for opening some doors for me. And then long ago, an old girlfriend I remember mentioned this guy who went to jail because he burned a lot of churches, and that guy also happened to make music, and that guy happened to be Varg Vikernes and his project Burzum. This is Det Som Engang Var. This is the first Burzum album that I ever purchased, and that was based on me seeing the name and remembering, hey, that's that fucking idiot. The track Key to the Gate, second track, was the one that really did it for me for Burzum, but this is not my favorite Burzum album. That would belong to Philosophem. This I got shortly after Det Som Engang Var, and wow. This album is a classic for a reason. It really is one of the best black metal albums ever. You may not agree with Varg's politics. I know I sure as hell don't. But back in the day, he knew how to write a little tune. So, Philosophem I hold in very high regard. And then a couple from the same band once again, and then the repeats will be done. Bathory, Blood, Fire, Death. This album was a turning point for me in terms of getting into black metal. Right from the opening kind of instrumental Odin's Ride Over Nordland right into A Fine Day to Die. Holy fuck, man. This is the one that really got me hooked. This one I can say definitively is the album that got me into black metal. And I think it is the perfect combination of Quorthon's early, you know, standard first wave black metal and his transition into more Viking metal territory. So I think it's a perfect album. My favorite Bathory album. And then another one that I got around the same time, The Return of Darkness and Evil. This one is way more raw than Bloodfire Death. So, you know, thanks to discovering Bloodfire Death, I went and checked out the earlier Bathory stuff, and it was kind of tough to pick between this one and Under the Sign of the Black Mark, but this one I feel like the songs were just a little more aggressive, just a little bit more raw. Again, kind of the perfect balance in between the self-titled album and Under the Sign. So, love this album. I love Bathory. At least like the first 4 albums. Once you get to Hammerheart, that's where I kind of start to tail off. That's just my opinion. Another band that would go on to be one of my all-time favorites, Celtic Frost, Morbid Tales. Does that maybe look familiar? Tom Warrior, man. A fucking legend in my eyes. Into the Crypts of Rays, Dethroned Emperor, Morbid Tales, Procreation of the Wicked. Are you serious? That's all on one album. Unbelievable. First wave black metal. Really, I think every black metal band that exists today owe a debt of gratitude to the guys in Celtic Frost and Hellhammer. They really, really hit the nail on the head with Celtic Frost. And then another classic, Darkthrone, A Blaze in the Northern Sky. Pound for pound, maybe my favorite black metal band. I love everything that they've ever done, whether it's, you know, the black metal stuff, Soulside Journey, which is more of a death metal album, the newer stuff, which is maybe like Black and Roll, Crust, punk, whatever. I love it all, but this is the one, man. In the Shadow of the Horns, that opening riff. You all know it. You all should know it, but man, it's a fucking headbanger. Fenris, Nocturno Culto, geniuses in my eyes. And then this might be a surprising one. Suitor, Desert Northern Hell. Now, the story behind this one is this guy that I went to high school with. I was never very close with, just friendly at best. But he liked metal in high school. When I was in high school, I liked hardcore and punk shit. So this was nowhere near my radar. I had no idea stuff like this existed. And I saw him at the record store that I go to way after we graduated. And, you know, I was wearing my vest. I had a whole bunch of patches on it. So he came up to me. We started chatting about metal. I asked him if he had been to any shows recently. And he said that he saw this band, Suitor. And I was like, yeah, I know black metal stuff. I'm just not that into it. So I checked out this album after he told me he saw them. And, man, Mouth of Madness. That's the one. That's the track off here. These guys kill it. Suitor. So, another early on black metal album for me. This one, the cover is so dark on this. I don't know if you'll even be able to see it, but it is Marduk, Those of the Unlights. Again, this pound for pound might be one of my all-time favorite black metal bands. They don't have a single bad album, in my opinion. And this is the one that got me into Marduk. Burn My Coffin, Wolves, the title track, Those of the Unlights. All favorites of mine. If I had to choose a favorite from Marduk, it would probably be Panzer Division Marduk. because I think that album is absolutely insane. Just absolutely blistering, aggressive as fuck. But those are the Unlight. It's the one I chose for this video. Get ready to hate. Cradle of Filth, Vampire, or Dark Fairy Tales in Palestine. That back cover for a second. I love Cradle of Filth. I don't give a shit what anyone says or thinks about them even now. But back then, this was, for a lot of people, a band that got them into black metal. They quickly gained a lot of exposure, and people don't like them for that reason, and amongst others. But you know, it's definitely entry level shit, but I definitely love it regardless. Yeah, The Forest Whispers My Name, Queen of Winter Thrones, Nocturnal Supremacy. There's some really solid shit on here. This is without a doubt my favorite Cradle of Filth material. Vampire. And then this is another classic band, but I don't really care for most of their material. That would be for Mayhem. This is Deathcrush. My favorite Mayhem record is without a doubt Live in Leipzig, but this is the one that I listened to first. I don't know, something about that cover and just the red with the black really popped out at me. I'm not crazy about De Mysteriis Dam Satanis, believe it or not. I like that album. I think there's some great tracks on it, and I can understand why it is regarded as a classic, but it's not my favorite Mayhem. The stuff with Dead on vocals, all the live stuff that exists, and the recorded versions of, I think it's Carnage and Freezing Moon. That's my favorite stuff. That's, I think, the way that Mayhem was intended to be heard. But this shit is just as good. The opening riff in Deathcrush, fucking killer shit, man. And then a band that I got really, really into as soon as I got into black metal. I went out and I bought all of their CDs, and that was for Shining. And this is 5, Homestead. This opened my ears to a more depressive side of black metal. And, you know, when, like, it's cold out, it's dark, like right now, if it's raining or it's nasty out, I can put stuff like this on and just sink into a deep hole of despair and depression. But, the good kind, if you know what I mean. This is an album that can take you to that place very easily. So I like Shining a lot. I'm bummed. They're playing Friday. No, today's Friday. They're playing tomorrow in New Jersey, but my band is playing a show the same day, so I can't go. So I've yet to see them. The first American black metal band that I ever got into, and still one of my absolute favorites, and that'll never change. Leviathan. This is True Traitor, True Whore. I remember reading about some of the controversy surrounding this album and Rest at the time. Stuff with his ex-girlfriend at the time that I won't get into because I don't care to. If you're interested, you can look it up on your own time. But that's what drew me to this album. And just some unbelievably hateful shit. The songwriting, man, you know, it's hard for me to put into words, but the songs just have this kind of ebb and flow to them, peaks and valleys, and it's so hypnotic and entrancing to my ears, at least. And yeah, this is my introduction to Leviathan, and I love all of Jeff's material, even Lurker of Chalice, some of my favorite stuff. And this is one that I always saw the logo for floating around, even before I listened to black metal, and that is for Blasphemies, Fallen Angel of Doom. So, I had never heard anything like this when I picked this up. Um, to this day, there may not be a more abrasive album. Uh, and I take into consideration the year that it came out and bands that preceded them and bands that have gone on to mimic this style. And I just don't think that anything tops this album in terms of that bestial or war metal sort of style. This is the crown jewel. Period. For me. And then, much like Blasphemy, something that really took me by storm and was just an absolute assault on the senses. Conqueror, War Cult Supremacy. I pretty much discovered Conqueror and Revenge at the same time. And I chose to show this album because this is more of a tandem. It is the vision of Jay Reed and Ryan Forster. Revenge is pretty much Jay Reed's project himself. So the two of those minds together in one entity, I thought was worthy of putting over Revenge. And listening to this, I listened to this last night when I was, putting together this list, and the shorter songs like Age of Decimation, The Curse, Hammer of Antichrist, holy shit, like, I can still remember the first time stumbling upon this stuff and just really, really taking it all in, and it was like a sledgehammer to the fucking skull, and it still is every time I put this shit on. Time for some more classic stuff. Immortal. It was really hard for me to choose between At the Heart of Winter and Battles in the North. I went with At the Heart of Winter because I think the riffs on this are a little bit better, stand out a little bit more in my mind. So when I think of Immortal, I think of Cold, I think of Ice, I think of Grim, I think of Frostbitten, and I think this album suitably presents all of those elements. And so I thought it was the perfect Immortal album to include on this list, and there was no way I was going to make this list without including an Immortal album. Just cannot be done for me. Next up, Dissection, Storm of the Light's Bane. Again, hard to choose between this and the Somberlin, but when it comes down to it, I listen to this one way more. And I don't really know why. I fucking love the artwork for this, always have. But, songs like Night's Blood, Unhallowed, Thorns of Crimson Death, just absolutely classic. And it represented a more melodic side of black metal, which I really hadn't heard until I had heard Dissection. So, again, an introductory album for me, and kind of showed me a different side of black metal. It showed me that it wasn't just all straightforward tremolo riffs and blast beats. There was, there were bands out there that had some real songwriting prowess, and John Notveit and Dissection, cream of the crop. And how could I not include some South American shit? Sarcophago, Inri. These guys, it's been said before, but way, way ahead of their time. Really, like songs like Nightmare, Ready to Fuck. It says on the back here, Ready to Fucky. That made me laugh. Death Rash. Wow. These guys, like, look at that. They had the chains, the spikes, the bullets, the corpse paints, everything, the entire aesthetic and the music to back it up. This shit is just classic. Spawned tens of dozens of copycats, none of them able to really replicate what Sarcophago was doing. And then lastly, this one is pretty recent, 2013, Inquisition Obscure Verses for the Multiverse. But again, it's 2017. I'm going to be 28 in a couple weeks, so I was probably like 23 or 4 when I heard this, so I was still like getting my feet wet when it came to black metal, and this was really one of the first new releases that I got when it came out. And fuck, I love this band. For a two-piece, they fucking shred. Dagon and Incubus. I love Dagon's vocals. I don't give a shit. People can joke about him sounding like a frog or whatever the fuck they want to. All you want. I think it's incredibly unique, and it fits this style so perfectly. I mean, I can put on any Inquisition album and listen to the whole thing through, no questions asked. Just an absolute essential band for me, and a band that really, really, really got me to love and appreciate black metal on a whole different level, because this was one of the first times that I got something when it first came out, and I could completely immerse myself in it, knowing that no one else had, gotten to review it yet, or gotten to, it hadn't gotten to that point where it was deemed as a classic or not. I discovered this on my own, and that's why it was special to me, and that's why I had to include it in this list. And so that's the top 20 black metal albums that got me into black metal. I'm sure it's going to be either very different or very similar than some other lists out there, based on, me having some of the classics in there, and based on me having maybe some newer shit in there, and some entry level stuff or what have you. But, this is just, it's my video. It's not yours. So, suck it. But go ahead if you feel like doing a list of your own. You can leave it down in the comments, or if you make videos, go ahead and make a video like this if you like black metal. I thought it was really fun. Didn't take me long whatsoever to come up with this list. All those albums are, fantastic in my eyes. So I'll probably leave some links or something in the description. Again, thank you for subscribing, liking these videos, watching them. Keep on coming back. And until the next time, take care.